Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning into another Supatease video. And in this one, we will be constructing a PvP tournament tier list. The Arena World Championship begins at the end of January. And in this list, I wanted to compile my thoughts on which specializations are the most likely to bring home a championship and bring home some moolah from that tournament. And if you want to make sure that you're staying up to date with news related to World of Warcraft, entertaining and educational content, then smash that subscribe button. Your support is greatly appreciated. So as you can see on this tier list, this means that I think this specialization is going to win this. A tier means it'll likely be like a duo, possibly have a decent chance, and D tier means it's got no chance. I don't even think that we're likely even going to see it at any point in the tournament, and that's how this is going to be going down. Okay, we got Affliction Warlock. Now in a tournament setting, Affliction Warlock can be particularly good against double spellcaster. There are some teams practicing things like Demonology Balanced Druid or Destro Balanced Druid or Ellie Demonology, and maybe it slips in as like a counter pick in those types of matchups, and because of that I think it has a chance to be seen, although I'm not sure its overall likelihood of succeeding is probably going to be low in a tournament setting. Arcane Mage, now this is one that I definitely could see winning the entire thing. I think Subtlety Rogue, Arcane Mage, and Resto Druid, or possibly even a Priest Healer, is likely going to be one of the main contending compositions to be able to win this whole thing. But I don't think that it's, as common. It's only going to be in that comp. There are other specializations. I could see Arcane winning. It's definitely going to be a split. Some teams will play multiple comps, but on the winning team, I bet that there's going to be an Arcane Mage at some point in the tournament. So yeah, definitely. Arms Warrior, I'm worried about this one. I think that you're really susceptible to Rogue Mage, which is going to be very common. You're even susceptible to Rogue Boomkin. It's a decent pick. I see a lot of Warrior Death Knights practicing and doing well on the ladder, but I think you're going to get kited by these high mobility comps with Subtlety Rogues. So I could see it, maybe making it into the finals, semifinals, but I don't think that I'm going to be, voting this as the spec that wins the entire thing. Assassination Rogue. Unfortunately, with this one, Outlaw and Subtlety are just way better than you, so I don't think we're going to see it. It's not to say that I think that Assassination is even, that bad competitively. It's just Outlaw Rogue and Subtlety Rogue basically are unkillable in the hands of the best players. Assassination Rogue isn't, so you're going to pick the two options that have no chance to lose over the option that does have a chance to lose, so we're probably not going to see it at all. Balanced Druid is one that I definitely could see winning. I think that Rogue Balanced Druid, Demo Boomkin, and Destro Boomkin are all definitely compositions that have a strong viable chance of going the distance. Beast Mastery Hunter, this is a really tough one. I see a lot of comps succeeding on the ladder with this, like Unholy Death Knight, BM Hunter. That is the kind of like the main contending composition for it. It's one of those specs where I think I could see it going all the way, but I think it's got a couple weaknesses that could hold it back from delivering the win. And a lot of Hunter teams don't have the other compositions to flex around with, at least historically, for me to really be set on this. But it is so powerful at the moment in terms of just raw throughput that maybe it's got a shot, but I don't see it winning the whole thing. It could definitely go far though in the tournament. Blood Death Knight, probably not going to see it at all. Brewmaster, probably not going to see it at all, unless some weird stuff happens, which it has. I mean, we have occasionally seen like a tank spec, so maybe I will actually regret saying this about these specs, but I'm kind of vying that this is not going to be the case. Demonology Warlock, definitely another spec that I think could win the whole thing. I think Demo Boomkin particularly is a really powerful composition, as well as Ellie Demonology. Are both really strong compositions right now in the meta, and I definitely think that they could go all the way. Destro, this is where I'm not sure if people will play Demonology or Destro, because I think that Destro is a bit easier to kill than Demonology, which might lower its likelihood of being selected, even though it is really good. So Destro is actually a hard pick for me, between Demo or Destro, because it's really probably only going to be one of them is what I'm imagining. And I'm thinking that it's likely Demonology just because it's much more durable and it's way better into Subtlety Rogues, which is likely going to be the main meta point. So I'm actually putting Destro a little bit lower here on the tier list just because of that. Although it could easily be, a flex between these depending on the situation, playing with a Balanced Druid most likely, or maybe Destro with a Subtlety Rogue, but I think it might struggle when you're fighting Rogue Mage and some other setups. So this is a really tough one. I'm putting it down here though. I think Demonology's tankiness is probably going to outdo Destro overall when it comes to going for the win. Devastation Evoker, there's a chance that we see it. I think it's got some cheesy one-shot potential if some teams get desperate that have it practiced. I think there's like a couple NA teams. I think this is like NA meta Devastation, and maybe EU will play an Affliction Lock, but Do I see it winning the whole thing? It would be a struggle. I think Subtlety Rogue absolutely runs you over, but I could see it in some like counter picks earlier on in the tournament against Melee Cleaves. You might see it pop up occasionally. Discipline Priest. I think this is like an NA pick. You might see it a couple times on NA, and it might actually win the whole thing. But on EU, I'm really doubting that we are going to see it. I think it's mostly going to be Resto Druid. So, in one region, I could see Disc possibly winning the whole thing with like Disc Arcane Sub or Disc Arcane Outlaw or something like that. But I think Resto Druid is technically a little bit better right now. Although I think in NA, like some of the best healers are currently playing Priest. So this is a tough one. I'm putting it up on A for now because I think it's more region locked. Elemental Shaman, I could see it doing really well. Ellie Demo, Resto Druid is a really good composition right now, but I feel like it's going to get outdone. I think it's probably, likely to get up in there, see it, in some of the final rounds, get some really long dampener games going with it, but I just don't see it winning the whole thing. I think that the Boomkin Rogues and the Rogue Mages and some of the other wizards like Demo Boomkin probably going to do a little bit better than you, at least right now. Enhancement Shaman, we're going to see it in NA probably because there's just one enhancement. I think Saul's, like, if he signs up. We'll see it in NA, but I don't think we'll see it in EU at all. And NA, depending on if it gets counterpicked or not, because I think there are some counterpicks for this, it could do well. So, I'm putting it here. You might see it a bit, but I don't know if it's going to win the whole thing. I don't know if F tier is making a comeback, but maybe it could. Windwalker's really good. Paladin is actually pretty good. I right now I just don't see it happening. Feral Druid, you don't really have a lot of options. Like there might be a couple of teams that sign up with like Feral Mage or something like that. I could see you maybe making it into the first couple rounds of broadcast, but not really going the distance. So this is like a chance to see them kind of in like a counter pick situation or like a low top 8 or something like that. Fire Mage, I think most people are going to opt for Arcane, although I think Fire might be like a flex pick in between depending on matchup. So I'm kind of putting like Fire Mage here maybe, or maybe up here. Probably up here is a better bet than down there. It's just going to be a flex pick for Rogue Mage, and maybe some weird double wizard thing, but I'm kind of doubting. I think this is going to be a flex pick. Again, this is kind of like Destro versus Demo and Arcane versus Fire in terms of which one's going to be most represented. It could really depend on personal playstyle for the player as well, but I think Arcane technically has the edge over Fire in a lot more situations. Frost Mage, definitely a good counter pick. I think like Demo Frost would be really good into Melee Cleave, so there's a good chance that we'll see it, but again, it's competing directly with these, and within Rogue Mage, I'm kind of doubting that we're going to see it, but it maybe has a better chance than these specs overall of getting like halfway through the tournament or something in like a Mage Lock situation. Frost Death Knight, oddly enough, I actually think we could see it. I think Frost Death Knight Devastation might be a cheese comp. It's like a very low chance though, like a really low chance. The thing is if I don't say Frost, then I shouldn't say Devastation because this is probably going to be played together. It's probably like the lowest chance of being played out of all the ones on the C tier. Fury Warrior, unfortunately, again, you're competing directly with arms, so I don't really see you. I don't see, it's not even that it's not really good, it's just directly competing with arms. I'm kind of doubting that we're going to see it. I think arms is just doing a little bit better. Like maybe there's a small moderate chance. I really don't. I'm trying to think like, is there any, it'd be like a European Warrior. I think I don't see any NA teams even investing in this. No like TSGs in the ladder either. I just don't. I think it's probably down here. I think it's low chance. Guardian Druid, low chance. Havoc Demon Hunter, this is a tough one because I think you're kind of directly countered by Subtlety Rogue, but I could see like Demon Hunter Boomkin coming out in some matchups and being like a clutch pick for a team in an occasional series. But overall, and maybe Demon Hunter Death Knight, it's probably like a decent chance of going pretty far in the tournament, but I think it'll probably fall short once it gets to the finals. Holy Priest, there's no chance. We're not seeing this. This is not going to be seen in the tournament. Its mana just can't keep up with the other healers, and at the highest level when games go long, you can't be out of mana over the other healers. It's not going to happen. Holy Paladin, surprisingly good. Dispel protection with your set bonus is going to make it a lot more viable against these purge classes. So your bops and your freedoms aren't always immediately getting stripped off. It's decent on mana. It's overall a decent pick. I could see it making a pretty decent run and possibly winning. But I think there's going to be other healers that are like more likely to be able to pull that off. Marksmanship Hunter, this is a counter pick situation. This is just a spec that's really good into mages particularly, so it could be useful in those situations. Like it could actually be the X factor for teams to beat teams that only have mage comps, but if teams that have boomkin comps and can flex between boomkin and mage rogue, I think it could be hard. but it is, direct counter to that and could actually be a real threat for those types of compositions. So I think it's got a better chance just because it's kind of the meta counter, but it's also really squishy and probably, more easily abused. So it's, a little bit lower chance because of that. Mistweaver Monk, I don't see it winning this. I think that there's a lot of high control burst comps, which is generally where Mistweaver struggles. Mistweaver is really good into dot classes, and none of those are really performing really well. It's probably still maybe more likely to be seen than Holy Priest, a lot more likely, but I don't see Mistweaver doing that well in this tournament. Outlaw Rogue, this is where I don't know how we're going to separate Outlaw and Subtlety, because I think that these are both, but they're likely, are they going to be completely interchangeable? We might see both within a series, depending on how the teams are playing with or feeling it out in terms of the meta. So I'm going to put it up on wins for right now. I think the Outlaw Arcane Disc or Outlaw Arcane Resto Druid is going to be a really common composition, at least on a team, and it might flex between Subtlety depending on matchup. Preservation Evoker, probably a low chance as well. I think maybe in a couple of like combo comps, but I feel like it's just so easily exploited by rogues, and you have to get so close to the fight, which rogues love, that it's a rogue meta for this tournament. I don't see it, and it's really limited on its mana compared to other healers. Even if you're playing, I don't see Preservation Evoker doing well. Prot Warrior, nope, probably not going to see this. Prot Paladin, I think people aren't considering it, but it actually might not be that bad. So I think just mostly because people aren't considering it, I'm putting it down here. But I actually wonder if it's not even that bad, if there's some sort of like prop paladin comps that could actually beat the rogue mage types of setups. Shaman, maybe we'll put Prez down here. Shaman is probably similar here. Maybe a bit above Mistweaver. I could see mostly like the Demon Hunter Boomkin composition with the Resto Shaman, and maybe the Rogue Boomkin Resto Shaman, depending on some NA teams. So you might see it a bit, but I don't think it's going to make it as far as Disc or Paladin. Resto Druid is an obvious one. I think that this is likely going to be the predominant healer throughout both regions. It's just got the most throughput, best mana management. It's got decent damage now as well. It's just the most powerful healer. Ret Paladin, probably a very low chance. I don't even really see any tournament teams from practice really investing in this. I think it's probably a pretty low. Like, I'm trying to think of like maybe Swapsy comes out with something like this, but it's just not going to do well into the Resto Druid caster teams that can spread really far, and it's not going to be able to chase the arcane mages. So I'm kind of doubting that we see Ret, but it's probably the most likely of the C. Maybe we put it here on the B because it does have a decent damage profile. Shadow Priest, there's going to be like one guy that plays this, right? It's probably going to be WizK, but he's probably going to be a Boomkin, would be my best bet. I don't see them practicing it at all, and there's got to be a reason for that unless they're holding it as like a trick. So it's probably similar to Ret, where it's like maybe we see it. It could be maybe decent in some matchups, but with the Master Spell change, it just doesn't bring the same type of utility into these mage comps to be able to counter the amount of CC that they have. So, maybe a middle chance, but it's probably unlikely to go all the way. Subtlety Rogue, I'm saying it's probably like the best bet spec probably for both regions to say that this is going to win, whether it's with an Arcane or a Boomkin. But the sub rogues might flex to Outlaw in occasional matchups where they need to like play for the long game, and it's their setup windows are very limited, so there might be some flexing between sub and Outlaw. Survival is literally going to be one player, right? It's going to be Big Mix in EU. I don't see anybody else playing this in the tournament, or at least, making it any sort of distance. So probably like middle tier, they'll probably sign up. Maybe the Outlaw Survival can do something into these rogue matchups, but if they get the cleaves like they got in previous seasons, it's probably still going to be pretty rough, and there's probably going to be a lot of those DK Warrior cleaves. Unholy DK, this is a hard one, man. Like, some teams have been practicing this and playing weird comps and making me think like maybe there's a chance like Rogue DK even or Warrior DK might have a chance. So I'm kind of putting this on like the high level of A, where I think that it's got a really decent chance. Like, it could be in the finals, but once it gets to the finals, I don't know. I don't think it's going to go all the way. Vengeance, probably unlikely that we see it. Windwalker, again, it's abused by the rogue teams, but it's a really good class overall. So I'm going to throw it up here on the A tier. I think it's got a decent chance. Augmentation Evoker is probably a 0% chance that we're going to see this played. I think probably 0%. This is kind of my thoughts on this. Again, some of these A tier ones could definitely bounce up into wins at all, because they're probably going to be paired with one of these wins at all specs. But again, with those types of odds and me trying to be as accurate as possible, I'm not going to take that risk. So I hope you guys enjoyed this discussion for the tournament meta and which specializations are going to be the strongest in tournament play. If you enjoyed the video, thumbs up, comment down below. I appreciate your help with the algorithm. So thank you very much for watching the video, and I will see you in the next one.